Something strange happened today, and it wasn't random. Your timeline just shifted. Something in your life just rewired itself, and you barely noticed. The timeline you thought was fixed slipped a beat, revealing a crack you can step through. What if every regret, every sudden coincidence, is the universe trying to hand you a new script? This isn't wishful thinking, it's a glitch that opens a doorway. I'm going to show you the real reason your timeline glitched, and how to use it. Stay with me, this is the practical map from confusion to conscious creation. You wake up one morning and a piece of your story has changed. The coffee mug is in a new place, an old friend calls, the job posting you missed yesterday appears like an echo from the future. These are not random. They are signals, small rearrangements in the field of possibility that point to a deeper mechanism at play. Most people write these off as coincidence, as bad timing, as stress. But what if you learn to read them? What if a glitch is really a nudge from a quantum spiritual reality that is more responsive than you've been taught to assume? For decades, science and spirit were on opposite sides of the room. Science asked how, spirit asked why. In the last century, the two have begun a conversation. Quantum physics revealed that the tiniest scales of reality are not solid, they are probabilistic, relational, and responsive. The observer affects the observed. In plain language, your attention matters. Spiritual teachers have always taught this: focus your mind, change your life. The new thing is the language that connects them. Quantum theory gives vocabulary to spiritual practice, spirit gives purpose to quantum facts. Both point to a central, uncomfortable truth: you are not merely a passenger. The problem is not that reality is indifferent. The real problem is most people are asleep at the controls. They react to the world instead of shaping it. They respond to habit loops, cultural scripts, and fear-based defaults. Those loops create a feedback pattern: negative attention breeds more of what you fear, and over time that pattern hardens. When a glitch appears, a missed bus that leads to meeting someone important, an argument that dissolves into clarity, most people simply endure it. They do not interrogate it. They don't experiment. They miss the fact that the same mechanics that produced the stuck timeline can be used to choose a new one. If you want to change timelines, the first task is diagnosis. Where is your attention anchored? What are the recurring narratives you repeat to yourself? Which bodily habits lock you into reactivity? The modern brain loves efficiency, it will take the path of least resistance. That efficiency is useful when you want to brew coffee quickly, but deadly when you want to rewrite your life. Unconscious repetition collapses possibility into predictable outcomes. This is why many people practice manifestation techniques with little effect. They change phrases or lists but leave the underlying attention architecture untouched. There are 3 visible signs your timeline is stuck: consistent negative feedback loops, the same disappointments happening with different players, limited imaginal range, you can't imagine a radically different future in sensory detail, and physiological reactivity that hijacks decision-making. You might also notice a pattern of almosts, chances that came close but evaporated. These are the universe's invitations. They are small, precise tests of whether you will shift attention and choose differently. Ignoring them is understandable. Changing requires risk, and risk triggers limbic alarms. But those alarms are trained responses, not immutable truths. Another angle is the emotional grammar you inherit from childhood. These early lessons teach you which outcomes feel safe and which do not. When your nervous system learned to avoid discomfort, it also learned to avoid possibility. Naming those early lessons converts them from invisible drivers into testable stories. Test those stories like you would test a hypothesis in a lab: collect data, run a small experiment, and revise. Language matters. Small semantic shifts change how your body predicts outcomes. Make the practice concrete. Choose one belief to test for 30 days. In short, the problem is not mystical fate nor cosmic punishment. The problem is pattern, habit, and attention collapsed into default probability edges. The glitch you noticed is a doorway. The work you must do begins with the honest, ruthless observation of how attention, story, and body align to produce what you call your life. The discovery begins with noticing, truly noticing, the interplay between choice and collapse. In laboratories, researchers show that particles behave differently when observed. In life, people behave differently when they feel seen. The discovery we are talking about is not just a philosophical insight, it is a practical one. Attention and intention together function like a focused instrument that selects among many potential outcomes. You do not need to be a physicist to use this, you only need clear attention and consistent practice. I want to tell you about Maya, a client I worked with who thought her life was a series of unlucky events. She had a successful background but kept sabotaging promotions, sabotaging relationships, always stepping back when opportunity knocked. When we began tracking the moments she felt tension, we found a pattern, tiny anticipatory fears that mounted into a full shutdown. She believed failure was inevitable, and her body learned to anticipate it. The discovery came when she learned to pause and observe the anticipatory feeling rather than act on it. That pause functioned like a measurement in quantum experiments, it changed the outcome. The next time a chance appeared she paused, breathed, and then made a micro-commitment. The result was different. Another discovery is the role of micro-choices, those tiny decisions you make without thinking. They stack. A single micro-choice creates a ripple in the local field, hundreds of them accumulate into a river. Your micro-choices about where to look, whom to forgive, how to breathe, and what story to repeat are the scaffolding of your timeline. The practical part of this discovery is learning to audit those micro-choices and to replace automatic patterns with conscious ones. It is not glamorous work, but it is efficient. The field responds to consistent small shifts faster than grand rituals done sporadically. We also discovered that emotion is an amplifier. The nervous system does not carry neutral information, it amplifies meaning. High-charge emotions, fear, grief, longing, tilt the field powerfully. This is both a problem and an opportunity. Problem: unchecked fear narrows options and pulls your timeline toward survival patterns. Opportunity: cultivated positive effect, feelings of gratitude, certainty, curiosity, broaden attention and open the field to surprising outcomes. So the practice is not about suppressing emotion, it is about shaping and amplifying helpful emotion by design. There is a practical corollary: coherence matters. Coherence means the alignment of heart, mind, and action. When these three systems are aligned, your attention becomes a precise instrument and your choices reliably generate different outcomes. Quantum experiments suggest coherence increases the likelihood of stable outcomes. Spiritual traditions call that alignment prayer, devotion, or surrender. The modern synthesis is simple: build coherence through small rituals, focused practices, and honest story work. That is where real manifestive power lives. The discovery also includes the social dimension. People around you act as amplifiers for your timeline. If your social circle carries scarcity scripts, your field will be pulled toward similar probabilities. Conversely, coherent people attract coherence. This is not mysticism, it's social physics. Your job, then, is partly to curate the environment that supports new possibilities and partly to become the attractor for what you want to manifest. The discovery phase is experimental: notice, test, record. Treat life like a lab where attention is the microscope and feeling is the instrument. Start small, learn quickly, and iterate. This is how you shift a timeline, not by force, but by changing the conditions of observation and the quality of the signal you emit. Before method, we cultivate permission to be wrong, to experiment, to fail forward. Many people skip this and treat the practice as a test. The method includes safe failure loops: intentionally attempt something small that might not work, observe the feelings that arise, report evidence, and iterate. This lowers egoic stakes and increases exploratory behavior. Curiosity becomes your laboratory tool, and the field responds to curiosity much more readily than to demand. Another discovery: language reshapes the field. The words you use to describe possibilities alter how likely you are to notice opportunities that fit that language. Swapping vague intention for crisp language, concrete dates, sensory details, and measurable steps, creates a different attractor. Start describing your desired timeline in precise verbs rather than passive wishes. Replace "I want" with "I am creating" and watch how your nervous system prepares to act. Method matters. Theory without method is entertainment, method without heart is machinery. The method I teach blends daily practices, somatic awareness, short experiments, and story-shifting work. It is designed for people who want results, not vague platitudes. The method has 3 limbs: noticing, tuning, and aligning. Noticing is the first limb. It's the microscope on your life. Start a simple log for 7 days, notice 3 timeline glitches each day, a coincidence, an uncanny repeat, a sudden change. Write down where your attention was, what emotion rose, and what automatic story followed. This simple practice rewires your brain to stop living on autopilot. The second part of noticing is scanning for micro-choices. What did you do when the glitch happened? Did you freeze, react, run? The log turns vague feelings into data you can use. Tuning is the second limb. It's an energetic recalibration. Use 2 practices: coherence breathing and intention anchoring. Coherence breathing is a paced breath: inhale 5 seconds, exhale 5 seconds, for 2 minutes while focusing on a felt sense of gratitude. This shifts your nervous system from threat to receptivity and increases vagal tone, which science links to better attention and emotional regulation. Intention anchoring is a 5-word future sentence that you repeat with feeling: I am choosing a different timeline. Say it, feel it in the chest, then let it go. Do this 3 times a day for 2 weeks and you will notice a change in how you scan for opportunities. Aligning is the third limb. Alignment translates attention into action. Create micro-commitments that are impossible to avoid: 1 email you send today toward the life you want, 1 call you make that scares you, 1 small kind act toward yourself. These micro-commitments are the behavioral proof that your attention matters. They signal to your own system, and to the environment, that a different branch of reality is being chosen. Practical exercises: an emotional calibration check. Rate your dominant emotion each morning on a 1 to 10 scale. If above 6 for fear or anxiety, do the coherence breath. Another exercise: timeline rehearsal. Imagine the timeline you want in vivid sensory detail for 5 minutes, then write down 3 micro-choices that support it. Do one immediately. Small experiments accumulate into deep change. Method also includes community accountability, which accelerates results. Share small experiments with a friend and report back honestly. Feedback loops from others help correct blind spots and expand the field of possibilities. Remember that repetition builds neural pathways, repetition with new feeling builds new identity. Keep the practices simple and repeatable so they survive real life. A practice protocol you can start today: morning log, 5 minutes, coherence breathing, 2 minutes, intention anchor, 1 minute, and 1 micro-commitment executed before noon. At night, write 1 evidence line, 1 small outcome that differed from the old script. Repeat for 30 days. The method is simple by design because consistency beats complexity every time. Method also includes a language hygiene: replace vague wishes with concrete verbs, specify sensory details in visualizations, and document evidence. This turns aspiration into data. Treat evidence as your spiritual receipts. Over time, your brain updates the map it uses to predict outcomes, and your nervous system will stop protecting outdated limits. Transformation is rarely cinematic in the beginning. It starts as a subtle widening: you notice more options, you sleep more, coincidences begin to feel like directions rather than random cruelties. The transformational arc follows a consistent path: awareness sparks small shifts produce new evidence updates belief, updated belief enables bigger choices, and bigger choices shift the trajectory of your life. I'll share a deeper story about Ramon, who lost his sense of worth after a relationship collapsed. He stopped showing up at auditions he once loved because he believed his window had closed. Using the method, he started with noticing, recording the tiny moments he felt shame, the micro-choices to avoid the mirror, the social withdrawal. He practiced coherence breathing and a timeline rehearsal where he imagined stepping back onto a stage. The first time he acted on a micro-commitment, he walked into a class he had been avoiding, he registered a small piece of evidence, his voice returned, and a teacher praised a choice he had made years earlier. That small piece of evidence rewired a belief. He repeated this pattern, and over months new doors opened. Transformation also includes relational shifts. As you become coherent, your field changes, people respond differently. You attract collaborators who match your new frequency, and sometimes you gracefully lose people who belong to an older version of your life. This is not loss as punishment but pruning for growth. The method teaches compassionate boundaries and the courage to choose what is aligned. Friends and colleagues who once fit your old timeline may not fit the new one, and that is part of the sorting process. The physiological changes matter too. Chronic anxiety dissolves into regulated nervous system capacity. Sleep improves. Decision fatigue fades because your inner compass becomes reliable. These are measurable changes: improved focus, lower reactivity, and more consistent creative output. The quantum spiritual synthesis here is that as you change the probability landscape inside you, the external landscape reorganizes to mirror that coherence. You do not force outcomes, you change the conditions that make them likely. Transformation requires celebration of small wins. Document progress and ritualize recognition to amplify new patterns. Invite trusted witnesses to honor your evidence and make it social. Compassion for setbacks preserves momentum and reduces shame that stalls growth. Embrace the slow compounding of tiny shifts. The brain changes slowly but consistently, social fields change too, and each small proof increases the probability of bigger shifts. Practical transformation exercise: create a 30-day timeline challenge. Week 1, notice and log. Week 2, deepen coherence practice. Week 3, commit to 3 micro-actions per day toward your desired timeline. Week 4, evaluate evidence and amplify what is working. Keep a transformation diary. Each entry should record one piece of evidence that your timeline shifted. The diary becomes a physical artifact of change and a source of momentum when doubt returns. Transformation also includes practical recalibration: clear clutter, commit to one healthy habit, and protect creative time. When material conditions change to support new behaviors, transformation is easier. For example, if your new timeline requires writing daily, create a tidy desk, a specific hour, and a 2-minute ritual to begin. These structural changes scaffold the psychological work and make new patterns durable. Finally, transformation includes ethical maturation. As you gain power to influence outcomes, you gain responsibility. Use your increased capacity not just for personal comfort, but to create conditions where others can also step into possibility. Mission gives your practice context beyond personal gain. The spiritual tradition teaches that personal awakening must eventually translate into collective service. The mission is to become a node of coherence in your community, to hold a stable field so others can choose differently. When your timeline shifts, your ripple affects relationships, workplaces, and neighborhoods. Think of mission as applied manifestation. What gifts came with the shift? Perhaps new clarity, new skills, renewed compassion. Mission asks, how will you deploy these? It can be small, hosting a weekly conversation where people share shifts, mentoring someone, or creating art that models a different way of being. These acts multiply. Coherent people act like attractors. They gather resources, ideas, and people in support of emergent timelines. A core part of the mission is ethical intention. Quantum manifestation is not a license to manipulate outcomes or override consent. The field responds to clarity of heart as much as clarity of mind. That means practicing curiosity and humility. Ask, what serves the whole, rather than, what serves me alone. Using your shifting timeline for service deepens meaning and stabilizes your influence in ways ego-driven aims cannot. Mission is also about repair, using your clarity to heal ruptures in your networks. Offer your time, attention, and skills to projects that expand collective flourishing. Make ethical choices visible so others can learn from your model. Build local practices that are accessible and replicable. Measure impact with simple metrics: number of people helped, projects supported, conversations started. These metrics are not a reduction of value, they are a way to translate subtle field effects into accountable outcomes that help sustain larger initiatives. A practical ritual for mission: once a week, perform a 20-minute field share, sit with breathwork for 5 minutes. Send a clear intention for someone you care about for 5 minutes, and then take 10 minutes to plan an action that aligns your resources with that intention. Record the results. Over months, you will notice subtle synchronistic returns, people offering help, resources appearing, not as magic but as natural feedback from a coherent system you alter through consistent practice. Start small and scale. Host a 30-day practice group, invite 5 people, share the method, collect evidence, and publish the archive of stories. These small community experiments show how coherence can be multiplied. Your mission is not solitary, it is the deliberate propagation of a different cultural rhythm that values presence and aligned action. Finally, mission challenges you to steward results. As your timeline shifts, people will ask you for help. Decide now how you will offer it: through mentorship, through sharing resources, or through creating spaces for others to learn. Structure your giving so it is sustainable and effective. The mission converts personal shift into cultural shift, and culture is where timelines become stable for many. Now, the final call to action: commit to a 30-day experiment. Use the noticing, tuning, aligning method. Keep a journal, do the breathing, take micro-commitments, and join a small community or share your experiment publicly. Post one honest update on social media or with a friend each week. Accountability accelerates change. If you choose to practice, you will begin to see the glitches not as errors but as invitations. The timeline did not fail, it opened. Walk through that opening with courage, curiosity, and steady practice. One last practical checklist to begin tonight. 1. Write 3 timeline glitches from today. 2. Do coherence breathing for 2 minutes. 3. State your 5-word anchor. 4. Make one micro-commitment to act before tomorrow noon. 5. Share your first evidence line with one person. That sequence is the minimal viable experiment that starts the engine. If you follow this carefully for 30 days, document the evidence, and lean into community, you will not only understand why your timeline glitched, you will have learned how to steer it. The field is listening. Your attention is the signal. Choose deliberately. If your timeline truly glitched, it wasn't an accident, it was an invitation. An invitation to choose differently, think differently, and finally create the life that's been calling you for years.